What's going on, everybody? Terrence Doyle here, and I'm super excited for the launch of Season 3 of the Multifamily Mentor. Season 3, I can't believe it. Very, very excited. So a few changes, right? This year, it's just gonna be me and some amazing guests. Chris Lopez has transitioned to his own YouTube show with BiggerPockets called House Hackers. Go check it out. It's amazing. I've watched the episodes. I think you're really gonna enjoy it. Today, I have the apartment rock star in the studio, and we are talking about 3 really pivotal things in his business that have changed since 2021. Number 1 is his transition to Class A from B and C. Number 2 is how he went from self-managing, being the best property manager in the country, to hiring a third-party property manager. I'm like, are you serious? This guy hired a third party? But stay tuned, he did it. And lastly, how mentorship helped him grow his business over 50% in the last 2 years. So it's gonna be an amazing episode. Anyone struggling with growing their business is going to want to pay special attention today. Question: are you stuck when it comes to growing your portfolio? Are you tired of all of the hassle that comes with managing people? I mean, buying apartments is amazing. Managing people is extremely difficult. Is that wearing you out? It did for me. And it did for our guest today, Robert Martinez, the apartment rock star. So we've got Robert Martinez in the studio with Terrence Doyle, the value add dad. And I'm super excited for Robert to be here. Episode 1, season 3. What's going on, man?
Man, what is up? The world is going to end. Value add dad, apartment rock star in the same room again. So, man, I'm super excited. It's been a minute since I was here.
That's right. June, to be exact, is June of 2021. So it's been over 2 years.
Wow.
So I just want to start it off with, what have you done since you were here? I mean, before that, you were killing it, right? You were killing it. You've had an incredible run. But since 2021, some things have really changed. So tell me what you've been up to. Tell me about Rockstar Capital and everything you guys have done.
Absolutely. And first, congratulations on opening up season 3. That's an amazing accomplishment. It has been a wild ride in the last 2 years. And this is what's going to happen to a lot of entrepreneurs out there, is that you're going to have tunnel vision like this, because that's how somebody told you how to get started. And when you take your hands off and you can actually see the rest of the world, life changes and you change. And you start finding context in life now and how you need to do things differently. And around that time, I joined a real estate club. Now, I got started in my early days from 2007 to 2019 in a real estate club in Houston. And I think that's the best way to do it. You got to get around a community of other people that get you going, that motivate you, where you get to see them on a regular basis, where all your friends are now millionaires through real estate. Well, how does that not help you? How does that not motivate you? Well, I left that club, and for the next 2 years, I was without a club. And I lost some of that friendship. I lost some of that mentorship. So I made a decision to join Grant Cardone's club that he has, helping him. In fact, I was member number 1. I don't know if you knew that, Terrence. They actually asked me, hey,
that's a big deal.
If we started a club, would you join? I was like, absolutely. I literally joined sight unseen. I didn't even know what the price was. I just know if Grant Cardone is going to be in a real estate club, that's kind of the direction I'm headed. I wanted to be in that. And in that club, man, I've learned how to think bigger. Mm-hmm. And that's what happens. I feel like I'm Barry Bonds, and somebody just gave me a Grant Cardone steroid shot. And like, I was already going to be in the Hall of Fame. Now I'm going to set legendary, crazy numbers that no one's ever set before. And so, but the biggest takeaway is just mindset. My mindset has shifted so much since June 2021. We've grown dramatically. Why? Because I saw Uncle G doing it. Like, well, why can't I do it? Why can't I grow? And so in the last 24,
let's get some juicy details here. So give me the numbers. Tell me how much money you've raised since 2021.
Let me get my thing. Yeah, we raised a lot of money. I mean, gosh, we raised $76.7 million. We closed on, I forgot how, a tremendous number of deals, 1,500 units, just with mindset shift. Specifically in the last 12 months, I have increased my portfolio size by 60%. So what took me 10 years to do, I increased it by 60% in 1 year. All because I said, hey, why aren't I pushing myself? All because I have the right kind of mentorship around me that's encouraging me. Not by saying, hey, holding my hand, by being that North Star. I'm like, wow, I can get there. I can do that too. And that's what we did.
So those are some pretty compelling numbers there, Robert, because I've known you for a while now and I've watched you grow both online and then in person now the last couple of years. And those numbers are staggering, right? So you said you've grown 60% over the last year, in the last 12 months, just from having the right mentor, right?
You having the right mentor, and the team.
Right? And so we're going to get into that today, right? We're going to unpack how you did that, because a couple of the key takeaways here for people watching is what you were able to do, which I'm really interested to learn because I'm kind of in this position right now, is you realized that B and C was wearing you out, right? That was number one. And number two, you realized that self-managing was wearing you out, right? You needed to hire a third party. And so for everyone watching, 2 years ago, you would have never said that, because you were actually, and you still are, in my opinion, right? And I've interviewed people from the West Coast to the East Coast, from up north to down south. I've interviewed everyone. And I've always said, my brother and I, Robert Martinez is the best operator of apartment buildings in the country that we've met, right? Because you started, this is what I love about your story. And for those of you that didn't see season 1, you got to go watch his story. I mean, he talks about how he started from a sales guy, right, to quitting his full-time W-2 job, getting into leasing, and then perfected every system that comes along with managing apartments, right? So you were talking to the number one guy, and the number one guy, told me a couple months ago, hey, I got out of management. I hired a third party, right? So those are some pretty big takeaways that I really want to unpack. So talk to us about that transition from B and C properties to, in the last 2 years, you've gone on this epic run of really focusing on Class A.
Yeah. Again, this comes back to context, like what I was saying, is that you got to take your experience and you have to use it to pivot along your way. Right. If you look at all the great athletes, right? Michael Jordan was a big dunker when he got started, right? And I reference Michael Jordan because, look, he was the greatest at what he did. And I'm not saying I'm the greatest, but I am the only 2-time national apartment owner of the year.
Right.
So you can take what you want from that. Right. He learned that he can't just dunk to the ball all the time. He had to develop a jump shot. How did he realize that? He realized it because he was getting beat up on the way to the basket. And that's what happened to me. We all get started at B and C because that's what we can afford. It's the cheapest low-hanging fruit you can get. But why is it that the institutions buy the big stuff? Couldn't they make all the money on B and C? You could, but it's so operational heavy. It takes you in it every day, knee deep in the weeds. And that works when you're at a smaller level. But when you start to build a portfolio, 2,000, 3,000 units, you can't be everywhere anymore. So then it comes down to your team. Did you have the right team? Do you have people that you develop within that can think like you and finish like you? And if you don't, you're going to start to see operational issues. COVID was a big turning point for me because that's when you realize who's paying the rent and who's not. At that point I don't remember, it was 2 or 3 different apartment complexes that were Class A. The rest of them were B and C. We had less than 1% delinquency on our Class A's. All of our delinquency, all of it was from the B and C knocking on doors, collecting rent, who didn't want to pay. And even today, here it is, we're in October of 2022, and we're still trying to deal with the hangover from that. Government getting involved, paying rent, people not paying rent, people, the eviction moratorium created havoc. That did not bother the Class A. And so being in this real estate club, right, around Grant, I realized wow, B and C slowed me down and wore me down.
When you say Class A was 1% delinquency, what would you say B and C was, just to put it in perspective for people? Was it 10%? 10%. So 10 times the delinquency
10%
in B and C.
If you're on your game, listen, if you're a mom and pop owner and you've got 1 or 2 deals, you probably can get a little lower than that because you're working it. You have nothing else to do. But when you got 5,000 units, you got 24, 25 other properties, it's hard. It's hard because it's just, it's difficult. So I think everybody should get started in B and C. Everybody should learn that game and understand the difficulty, but then take your experience and realize, man, I sure would like to buy nicer things that are easier to manage. It's easier to manage a Class A property because it's very simple. Provide for them what you say you're going to provide for them, and they'll pay you. B and C, they're not going to pay you sometimes.
And what is your advice? So if someone owns, let's say, 3 or 4 B and C properties, and they're like, I resonate with Robert, I want to go buy a Class A building. What are the first 2 things someone should do to be able to buy one? And what are the signs that they're ready to buy one? What would your advice be there?
The signs are low resident turnover.
Got it.
In your B and C's, right? You only make money. Actually, it's true in all real estate, but when people renew, not when they move in, right?
That's right.
Because when they move in, you got all these expenses, you got all these turn costs and commissions and marketing and vacancy loss, and the list goes on and on. But if they renew, you don't spend anything. And you actually get a gratuity in the form of a rent growth, right? Mm-hmm. So if you've got very good turnover, like I'm talking like 45% and below in B and C, it means you understand the game. You understand that it's all about taking care of the resident. Because in the A, they expect that. They expect everything to work. They expect it to work on demand. And if you haven't figured that out in B and C, because that's the biggest issue, people move out of B and C because of maintenance. So if you're not on your maintenance game, you shouldn't be looking at a Class A because they're going to expect it. And they have the ability to move at a moment's notice. They can pay their fee to get out of the lease. They will go to the review sites and hurt you because you broke your promises to them. So Class A is when you're ready. You've got your servant heart in check, and you understand that it's about keeping heads in beds.
Yeah, and I think that's such a great point. So everyone out there, maintenance is the number one driver of renewals. Maintenance, right? And you'll see that you're good at maintenance by the number of renewals you get, the percentage. And so Robert's basically saying, if your renewals and that percentage of people renewing is above 55%, that's a light bulb to say, hey, I'm an above average operator. I can start now to raise my level of play and go to Class A. And that's directly tied to maintenance. So, maintenance is a really hard thing to do in this day and age because the labor is so hard to find.
Absolutely.
Right? So let's transition. So the next thing that we talked about in the transition was from you self-managing to hiring a third party, right? Yeah. And people that know me know that I've had really tough experiences with third party. I mean, my brother and I, when we started Des Moines, lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, hiring the wrong mom and pop third party property managers. Not that they're bad people. They just didn't know how to manage properties better than us. So then my brother, kudos to him, took the lead in building out today what we call Live Lavender, our property management, platform. You had the best platform in Texas, right? The awards and the skins on the wall show it, right? So what drove you, right? And I know you've got some cool stories with Grant and some light bulb moments that went off, but talk about what made you realize you need to transition when you had the best property management company in Texas.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. And you're right. We had 19 city, state, National Apartment Association awards.
Right.
A 2-time National Owner of the Year overseeing that. That was my bread and butter. It was my baby. But what happened is COVID. Again, COVID made the workforce disappear. As you always hear, how does the expression go with hiring and firing? You want to make sure that you hire slowly, but then fire fast.
Right.
But you can't fire fast if there's no one to replace them. And that's been a big issue for us, is that we couldn't replace people that left us or people that we wanted to go because of the labor shortages. And that created quality control issues that we started to have in maintenance. So we weren't winning those awards anymore. At one time, we had 20 properties and 5 properties were ranked in the top 1% for resident satisfaction per J. Turner Research, which is through their Aura score. Mm-hmm. This was a very serious game. We started losing all of that. And it was because maintenance wasn't what it used to be. And I came to this realization that, man, the market has changed. I've got pricing issues with taxes and insurance. Now my turnover costs are going. It all has to do with one thing: people. Real estate's easy. People are difficult. And when I can't make the right people decisions, I have to ask myself, okay, am I really the best person to do this right now? Where are the people? The very best people are working for the very best companies. And I came to this realization, as I said, I'm a Grant Cardone student of his, and I pay for private mentoring. And he gave me the idea a year ago, October of 2021. And he said, hey, I know what your goals are. I think you need to leave property management. And again, I hadn't fully gone through the COVID cycle, the effects of the COVID cycle. I hadn't gone through the effects of maintenance. But as I go back and I do the autopsy on all of our issues, it all had to do with people. Not having the right people in place, not having the right training, not having the right systems that I needed. And so we made a decision about 3 months ago that I was going to get away what I was known for as property management, and I'm going to hire another property management company, a third party. And for a long time, I was very skittish of that, right? I never would want to do that. I was told, don't do it. They don't have skin in the game. But at this level, and I've been doing this for 15 years, and you realize, wait, I am the best operator. All I need is just a better group to work with, right? A group that has better training, a 15-person training team, a 15-person HR development team. Like, I just need a better system to work with. So I said, you know what? My system isn't good enough. So I mothballed it after, having this business since 2011. And I brought in somebody else, and I basically oversee this now. I truly asset manage. And it is amazing how much easier it's been now. I don't have to worry with people issues, 2-week notices, people getting fired. I see numbers like that person needs to go. And what do you know? They go. Within a few days, they come to the agreement. Yeah, you're right. We saw what you saw. And our HR team's working on somebody. And then we have somebody starting there in a week. Oh my, you know how much I would have to do all that before? And I tell you, the biggest reason why we did not replace people is there was nobody to replace them with. We know it's broken. We know there's a hole in the boat. And I couldn't do anything about it because there was nobody to hire.
Right. And I think one of the interesting things you talked about, which is, really fascinating, is that, the company you went with has an entire team dedicated to hiring people, right? 15-person HR team that all they do is filter and hire people that want to be there. Yeah. And then after they hire them, they train them, right? Because what are the two hardest things to do based on what, the current, kind of economic circumstances we're in? That workforce space of people making $50,000 to $80,000 is the hardest. I mean, if you go to restaurants in any major city, they're all understaffed, right? Everyone's having the same problem, right? And so I think what's interesting about what you did was you realized that and saw, hey, this is no longer my strength to hire and train. The hand that's being dealt based on the economy is not allowing me to find the right people and train them like I used to, right? And I thought that was really interesting. And so you found a third party that was referred to you by a mentor, right? That you've been doing, things with for 2 years now. So added a ton of value to your business, is going to end up saving you millions of dollars. And they do what you realized you couldn't do, right? Is you have all the knowledge and the experience. They have the systems and process and the platform in place to attract talent, train it, and then provide to you, their client, a great service. So I think that that's really interesting and something to watch in the market that you're in, right? Is identify, are you having these same problems? Are you facing challenges finding maintenance techs, leasing agents, all these things? If you are, find the most professional company that already has that platform in place and those systems to train and onboard people.
Yeah, I want to say that is that in the beginning, you're better than those kind of property management companies that you can attract. If you only have 100 units, 500 units, those are the low bottom property management companies. You're better off continuing to work on that yourself, which is what I did. I supplemented my effort. I subsidized my effort for the talent level, right? Because you can't afford to pay them what the big management companies can. You have an X number of budget. So you're going to have to use some of your own time and your effort to subsidize that effort. But once you get that scale, you got to realize like, man, okay, I'm now big enough that somebody would want to come in and third party manage my stuff. The company we joined with is actually the company that Grant uses for his 12,000 units. We've got 5,000 units. They have 19 in the Houston marketplace. So they automatically grow by 25%. They're 110,000 nationally. They're in markets that I want to be in. They're in 23 different states, 37 markets, and they're run by an independent owner. And that's what's key for me. It's not some big publicly traded company like a Camden or a Greystar. It is a family-owned business where the company was named after the family dog. They started with a duplex. I'm like, okay. So I identified, I didn't just throw it out. I qualified them to make sure that they were what I wanted. But you're exactly right. In the early days, I could hire, train, move on, and go. I don't have the time. And right now with where we're at in this kind of economic situation where there could be a very likely a recession coming, I didn't have the time to invest back into it and invest and build this up. I needed results right now. I got to protect the investor capital. I have to understand that I may not no longer be the best option to run the management of those teams, but I'm still the best operator. I'm still the best jockey. And that's what you do. You back the jockey, not the horse. The best jockey is going to win. It doesn't matter whose horse it is. I actually upgraded. We had a great management company, but with the turnover and losing people and not being able to replace them, it wasn't worth holding on to anymore. We get better efficiencies, better economies of scale that are going to immediately overnight. We just did our first books. Immediately expenses came down because they have portfolio expenses. They have economies of scale that I did not have at 5,000 that they do at 113,000.
The punchline here for the audience is Robert has been known as the best or one of the best operators in the country, right? And he's got the hardware to prove it. And he realized that BNC warmed down, right? BNC warmed down. He needed a transition. He also realized that, self-managing had its time and gone. And that in order to take his investment platform to the next level, he needed to hire third party, right? So he upgraded. And he did this through the use of a mentor, right? You were able to have a great partnership and relationship with someone that, what would you say, 3, 4, 5 years ahead of where you're at, and was able to open the doors and guide you to, hey, Robert, here's how you get where you want to go. How can people get a hold of you, Robert?
Yeah, so please follow me on Apartment Rockstar, because it's all about education and mentorship. We give a ton of free videos. So at Apartment Rockstar on Instagram, go to YouTube. And if you want a little more personal coaching, hit me up on my DM or the link at invest@rockstar-capital.com, and we'll set you up with our personal coaching, or you'll come to Mastermind. You came to our last one in September. You're coming to our next one in January. And it's like, you're going to get all the nuggets. I can't help but talk about this. I'm so impassioned because how real estate changed my life. I wanted to help change everybody else's life. This is a dream for me, and I would love to be able to pass that dream on to you.
Yeah, it's such good stuff here. And so stay tuned. Make sure you share the episode and maybe drop in the comments what you learned in your favorite part. Robert, thanks for being here.
Hey, man, it's great. Thanks
that was
for
awesome.
having me.
Thank you.